free-flowing conversation, but why don't you start with by telling us a little bit about how you got involved with the film? I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this film, and I still, every time I cry. And I just want to tell one little story while we get Crystal mic'd up again. Crystal's first film was called The Deadliest Disease in America, as Fred said. And you remember the part when Claudia Thomas says that she was at Johns Hopkins, and that it wasn't ready? Well, when we did The Deadliest Disease in America there in what year was that, Crystal? 2010. That was the first time they had ever had a diversity event in 2010, 6 years ago, Johns Hopkins Medical School. What does that tell us? What does that tell us? So I would like to ask Doris Chang to join us. Thank you, Doris. And I'm trying to talk Dr. Ellis or Dr. Thornton into joining me up here as well. Would you guys want to join me? Thank you. Please, please.
Oh, you know, y'all better come on up here. Do not leave me being up here by myself.
So I guess that answers that
question. Because it really is about you.
Absolutely. Because I think it's always interesting to hear from our doctors and a little bit about how you made this journey and why you became interested in this project and working with Crystal.
I'm actually a clinical psychologist, and my specialty is on race and ethnicity and culture and mental health. And I'm really passionate about this project, and I'm so delighted to have been a part of this important film because I think we need to call more attention to how race and ethnicity affects medical care, mental health care, and affects the relationship between patients and their providers. And I feel like the film really demonstrated beautifully the challenges that minority clinicians face in terms of expectations that people have of them, just the barriers to getting through the training and to even imagining yourself in this kind of helping role. So, you know, as for me, I similarly wanted to become a clinician because I realized what I was learning in school about psychology and mental health had nothing to do with my community. Couldn't picture my parents going to see a therapist the way that I was being trained to think about psychotherapy. And so a lot of the work I do is similarly about trying to improve the access that immigrant communities have to clinical services, and also to make the services themselves more culturally meaningful to these communities. So it's a really important film. I'm so inspired by this film and hope it reaches a very large audience.
Thank you, Dr. Chang. Dr. Ellis.
Good evening, everyone. So I am much like the young women in the film. I'm early in my career, so I also did an MD PhD program and am about 2.5, almost 3 years out of graduate school. So for me, being early career, I too faced some of the similar challenges in that I didn't know that the barriers were as extreme as they were until I tried to finish medical school. Part of my story was as an MD PhD student, you're in school a very long time, and a lot of us go into medicine to help people, but we also feel like we can change the world. And a lot of my tenure while in my graduate years was giving back, mentoring other students, increasing the climate of diversity at my institution, being very active in the Student National Medical Association, many of you have fond memories of, that are clinicians. And so despite all of that work, when it came time to apply for a surgical specialty, it was very hard to break down some of those barriers. People weren't necessarily valuing my skills. The PhD I had was great because I did research, but not groundbreaking enough to garner me a residency spot. And so I faced challenges actually leaving medical school, where I thought that I had done all the right things and been the most prepared, and was closed out from a lot of my first choices. And so my route now in still breaking down barriers is that I'm in industry. And so I work for an orthopedics company, the largest in the world, and I am the only person of color in my department. And so I still mentor students, and I still talk to people coming behind me to say that, you know, the world of medicine is so vast and it's so interesting. And as a child, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but it wasn't until I got my engineering degree that I saw my passion for technology and healing, not necessarily with medicine, but with therapeutics and drug delivery devices and things that lots of my counterparts had never been exposed to. And so I feel like my world and being part of this film is so humbling because there are so many things that our communities don't necessarily see but could definitely benefit us. So I appreciate Crystal's work. I appreciate the idea of translating that message that we as scientists and physicians don't do very well, and having somebody to make it very plain. And I appreciate my counterpart's candor in the film to show those things.
Thank you.
Anyway, I guess just to say, I've been in this a while. I know I look like the gray is covered over, so I look a little younger than I am. But I was not necessarily doctor material, just to be honest. My strengths are in literature. My strengths are in speaking. I'm creative. This medicine was a challenge for me, but I really wanted it. I don't know. My mom's a pediatrician. She went to Howard. I followed her in her footsteps and went to her alma mater. A lot of her classmates were my teachers, so it was probably a good place for me to be. But it has not been easy. It really hasn't. And so I definitely can encourage anybody, because I feel like if I could make it, anybody can make it. Physical medicine and rehab is considered to be one of the more difficult specialties, not quite as like surgery, but to get into. And I was in DC. I came to New York because there's 20 programs here. I mean, you got to get into one, right? So, and it's been good, but it has been a challenge. I remember at my graduation from medical school, the keynote speaker was so good. He was an alum, and his title of his message, and I still think of it today, and this is from '91, a long time ago, is that he said, "It's certain you'll make a living, but will you make a difference?" And I feel like that's my purpose, and that's how I want to live it.